Hi, this is Personal Intro in Cultural Diversity Awareness presentation, and this is for AEP 880, Module 1. So I'm going to begin with my personal information, so let's go ahead and get started. I am Tiffany Coral. I teach 4th grade math, science, and social studies currently at Chestnut Ridge Middle School. Before teaching 4th grade, I taught alternative education for the school district, and that was grades 5 and 6. Before that, I taught pre-K, and I was the after-school site coordinator before that, all at Chestnut Ridge School District. It is a small rural school district. We have about 100 students per grade, and the majority of our students are Caucasian with a small minority group. So here are a few pictures that I think reflect me as a person. I'm going to begin with the top left corner. So this is my dad. He was a huge part of my life growing up and still is as a grandfather to my husband and I's son. He kind of represents my history and background. He's who I get my looks from, very Irish, blonde, blue eyes, freckles. Moving down, this is my work family. I wouldn't make it through work each day without Lisa, Chelsea, and Brittany. And I say that they are my family because, again, they help me get through every day at school through the ups and downs, especially the last 2 years with the COVID pandemic. Going down, that's a picture of my husband and I. So we have a tradition each year. We go hike a new waterfall. Currently, we've been to 3 different states to do that, but we are working our way, hopefully, through the Northeast, which is where we are from, here in Pennsylvania. Moving on, that is my husband and our son, Easton. My husband's name is Taylor. We've been married for almost 4 years, and our son, Easton, he is 1.5, and he encompasses most of our life and our focus and attention. And I wouldn't have it any other way. I love being a mom. There's another picture of Easton. We love to be outside and to explore and adventure. So we live in the country. We have no neighbors. Our closest neighbor is about a mile away. So that kind of tells you a little bit about what I'm used to and what I've grown up with. This is a picture of Easton when he was first born, and our fur baby Finley. I call Finley my child as well. She was my first fur baby. We love going to the beach. As you can see, in the summer we try to at least go on vacation for a week to at least one beach, but sometimes more. That was our wedding, like I said, about 4 years ago, and we are still very much married and in love and plan on having more children in the future. My mom here, she has been my rock through the years, especially as a parent. Now as a grandmother, she's very helpful, and I think I am very much like her in our everyday behaviors and actions. And finally, my sister up here at the top. I only had one sibling growing up, which I would say goes into my background because I know some cultures are used to having multiple siblings. I just have the one, but one was plenty. She, again, we are best friends, and she has had a large impact on my life. Overall, we, as a family, we go to church. We go to a Lutheran church. Every Sunday, we volunteer for our church. We've done community service and donate in the past, all of which with COVID has slowed to a halt, but we do like to say that we try to give back and help our community as a whole. So my family history, I am Irish, so my maiden name was Finnegan. So if that tells anything, that I'm Irish. We have pubs all around the country named after us. And my mother is Pennsylvania Dutch, so she was from Pennsylvania originally. My great-great-grandfather, he came from Ireland. So my history, we were a family of 4 growing up. My parents are still married, and I plan to stay married as long as they have. They are going on 30 years of marriage. They are both considered blue-collar workers. My father has since received some for certificates and training, and I am the first generation to actually receive a college degree, which is telling as well. So some customs and traditions our family has. Our family is hunters. We have family meals on Sundays every week, and we love to be outdoors and adventure. Hobbies that I have, as well as my family, we love country music, going to concerts. We four-wheel ride over our property, so we live on a little over 7 acres of property, and my dad and mom, they own a few hundred. So we use that ground on a regular basis. And I call my biggest hobby and interest being a mom and the best wife that I can possibly be. Section 2 is on the provided resources, and I will highlight on the things that I have learned from them. Preparing for cultural diversity. So something that stuck with me was the definition of that they gave for culture. It is a learned set of shared interpretations about beliefs, values, and norms that affect the behaviors in relatively large groups of people. So about 1 in every 9 students in the world are considered English language learners. That's definitely not true where I am at, but I think in the years to come that we'll definitely see that in Bedford, Pennsylvania. By 2013, it is said that about 40% of students, that should be 2031, about 40% of our students will have a first language that is different than English. So that is definitely going to change how we teach every day in our classrooms. And the 6 basic cultural differences are ways of knowing. So this changes based on students' culture. It changes how students gain information. So is that based on traditions, or is that based on searching the internet? So those are 2 examples. That also affects how people solve their problems. Do they communicate it through verbally? Do they do it with gestures? How is that done? And again, that kind of goes into ways of communication. So in some cultures, eye contact is considered disrespectful. So that can affect how your students learn and communicate in your classroom. Again, the ways of learning. So in some cultures, they're very used to a teacher-centered setting where there's lecturing, versus in the United States where it is traditional for students to have a more hands-on approach. And then ways of using symbols is the last difference in having cultural differences. The example that was given in the text was a student was drawing a symbol for art class, but the teacher thought it was representing past negative wars, and in the fact it wasn't. It was just a symbol of their heritage. And lastly, it emphasized the importance of building relationships, using available resources to gain knowledge, and most importantly, listen through communication to the needs of your students and families. The next video was on cultural diversity, the sum of our parts. So the first thing that I took away from this video is that you make an impression on others, and people judge you within 7 seconds of seeing or hearing you speak. And sometimes that doesn't even involve speaking. That's just by looking at someone. That is really telling, and there's no way that you can actually know a person by 7 seconds. So it's important that you ask those important questions about who people really are. So that's about their cultural background, their religion, their racial background, and basically their views on opinions, and not being judgmental or biased. So really understanding why they feel or view things in a certain perspective. Next, it focused on diversity. So diversity within a classroom, or even just within staff at a school district, gives new perspectives. It can allow school districts to move on from strengths versus weaknesses that people have, and to focus on those positive that each person brings to the table. And the speaker, she liked to say that every piece of our life is a puzzle piece, and when you put it all together, you actually see and experience the full person as a whole. As a teacher and students, you want to be able to share experiences to explain who you are, and ultimately that influences how someone acts and reacts to situations now and in the future. Finally, it spoke on policy. So it mentioned it dealing with business, but as a school admin, school board policy position, you want to always be asking why policies are being made and how this affects and who this affects the people within your district now and in the future. The next video was It's Past Time to Appreciate Cultural Diversity. It mentioned that 2/3 of multicultural people, they felt that they needed to conform to be successful in the workplace, which is very sad and disheartening. Cultural diversity, especially within staff, it allows for a wider skill set, innovation, as well as different views to allow for unique decision-making and problem-solving skills. Diversity goes much beyond gender, which in the past has been focused on primarily in understanding the pay gap between female and male, but it definitely goes beyond that into culture. So instead of saying the glass ceiling, she mentioned the bamboo ceiling, which refers to the barriers that specifically Asians face in the workplace in Western culture. And it was shown that race had 3.5 times the negative effect on people progressing in their careers. So basically, if you were an Asian, you were likely to work somewhere, but being in a leadership role is highly unlikely. Overall, we need to work towards creating a global mindset for teamwork and leadership and what it needs to look like, not only in the workplace, but within your classroom as well. The first statistic that I noticed from my next video was that 1 in 8 people are considered a minority. So if you think about all the people in the world, that is a lot of people that are considered a minority, and that minority group is only growing each year. And this was from the Challenges of Cultural Diversity. In the presentation, he focused on 4 different ways that someone can be prejudiced. So cultural prejudice is having a cultural insensitivity or lack of awareness. Xenophobia is having a fear of other races and their cultural background. Being exocentrism, that is the belief that your culture is better or superior to others. The one that we hear the most is racism, and this is just having negative emotions or actions towards someone based solely on their race. Your attitude can be seen or unseen towards these things. So you might not notice you're acting or behaving in a certain way because it's an unconscious behavior, but it can have negative implications on how someone is viewed or seen. We need to continue as a country, as a globe, to make efforts to eliminate this racism, to make sure every individual in schools and in the world is given an equal opportunity in life. This quote was defined from my final resource, and that was on community engagement. Community engagement can be defined as public participation and involvement that promotes relationship building through learning, actions, and the expression of needs and values, and working collaboratively with individuals and groups to achieve specific goals. And this was taken from Engaging Diverse Communities. So they spoke about a community engagement model, and it is basically a process to create change within a community or even a school district. And it focuses on the diverse, unrepresented groups and allowing for them to be viewed and to help them with the problems that they're facing. So a few of the steps broken down: you want to first get to know the community, ask those hard questions. What do they specifically need, especially those underrepresented groups? Connect with community partners, ask them questions as well. That's churches, that's schools, and that's other businesses.